Welcome everyone to our SCIEX Biopharma Vodcast. I'm Roxy.
And I'm Kerstin, and in this series we are going to be uncovering how scientists are rewriting the rules of science.
In today's episode, we're talking the bioanalysis of oligonucleotides with Shane Karnik. Thank you for joining us, Shane.
Thank you for having me.
It's great to have you here. Before we get started, Shane, where in the world are you today?
I am in Colorado Springs, Colorado today.
Shane, what would you be doing right now if you weren't on our podcast?
Right now, prior to getting on this call, I was actually working on chromatography on our 7600 𝗥𝗲𝗄𝗏 system for some protein analysis we were doing. So coming hot from the lab into this call.
All right, so to get to know a bit more about you, we're going to ask you a couple questions, like kind of like a quick fire round. We'd like you to answer with the first thing that comes into your mind.
Sure.
Okay. Do you have a favorite compound to work on?
You know, we've done a lot of work with antivirals, and they have some unique properties, the class we've worked with, and I've always found those very interesting. But, you know, up there would be oligonucleotides. We've been working on those for, over a decade now, and those are always have a lot of personality and a lot of functionality that makes for, an interesting day in the lab for sure. So that's a classic compounds.
Shane, 𝗥𝗲𝗄𝗏 or 𝗥𝗄𝗏?
I'm going to go with the 𝗥𝗲𝗏. I prefer our 𝗥𝗲𝗏 systems.
And another mass spec question. What was the first mass spec you used?
My first one was an API 3000.
Shane, can you explain to someone who is not familiar with bioanalysis what that is?
Yeah, really, bioanalysis is, it's looking for a chemical entity in a biological system. So you're going to be looking in plasma, urine, or some biological matrix like tissue. To me, when we talk bioanalysis, we're usually talking about measuring an analyte specifically in some type of biological matrix, less than just doing a qualitative figuring out what's there. So it's more directed.
And can you elaborate a bit further on how that type of analysis differs for oligonucleotides compared to small molecules or even peptides?
Yeah, definitely. The overall idea is always the same. You're trying to measure that in some type of biological system, but obviously with small molecules, there's a lot of straightforward sample preparation techniques available. You can do a quick protein crash that'll remove a lot of your interferences. Whereas when you get into oligonucleotides, because they tend to be a medium-sized molecule, they're going to go from a couple thousand, 10,000 Daltons, and they're going to typically have a charged negative backbone. They're polyanionic backbones, so they're going to require more care. Some of the simple techniques like a protein crash are not going to work as with an oligo, so you're going to need to go to some type of solid phase extraction method, something that takes advantage of the negative charge backbone. And when you finally get them extracted, you have the additional challenges of actually getting good chromatographic separation of these, which typically is done by some type of ion pairing reagent used with a reverse phase column. So, there's a lot more challenges with oligos. They kind of bridge the gap between, they're not quite a small molecule, they're not quite a large protein. It seems like no two oligos are the same. Also, there's a lot of double-stranded and single-stranded, which bring in more challenging sample extraction. So there's really not a one-size-fits-all sample extraction for any oligo therapies that we've been working on.
As you can see here, our podcast is titled Rewrite the Rules, and we refer to rewriting the rules of science. Do you have any examples where that theme applies to your lab?
I think with, rewriting the rules, I think, we're constantly kind of doing that. You're told something has to be done a certain way, and it's kind of often because, well, that's the way this person did it at their graduate program, and that's the way their professor taught them, and that's the technique. But sometimes you got to throw out, those traditions and actually try new things. I always encourage our scientists, when you design your experiments, put in the traditional, what you think would be the best approach, but always throw in something a little bit off the wall. You might, actually learn quite a bit by trying something different, maybe take a extraction method from another class of compounds and adapt it to what you're currently working on. Speaking directly to oligonucleotides, when we started that, really hybridization ELISA was kind of, what a lot of people were focused on, and mass spec was not so much. But it ended up, with mass spec, you could get some assays up and running quicker. You could do a lot more early development work by using mass spec, and you were also able to get a better sense of not only the oligo but also the metabolites. And those were things like if you stuck with the traditional oligo assays, we would have been doing hybrid ELISA, and by adapting mass spec, I think it was a good service for our clients, and it was good for a lot of our scientists to get exposure to.
That's very inspiring. Thank you, Shane. If you could give your 25-year-old yourself any advice around analytical science, what would that be?
Yeah, I think the advice I would give a 25-year-old me is that, you got to be adaptive. You got to keep track of where the industry's going. When I came into the field, it was pretty much small molecule LC-MS was all anybody was doing. And, at that point, if you wanted to sit back, you might have thought that was going to be your career, So now, the 25-year-old me, I would say, do not just worry about small molecules. You're going to want to understand biochemistry. You're going to want to understand peptides. You're going to understand proteins. You want to go understand oligonucleotides. The biologics of today are the small molecules of 25 years ago, and in another decade, there's going to be a whole new class of compounds coming. And, if you haven't been learning and studying, you're not going to be prepared for the analytical challenges that are going to present.
Well, we want to thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insight into the work that you do at 𝗥𝗃𝗃. And we look forward to speaking with you in the near future.
Yeah, great. Thank you guys for having me today. This was a lot of fun.
And also thanks to our viewers. If you want to learn more about applications such as bioanalysis, make sure to visit SCIEX.com, and see you at our next episode. Thank you.